Rev up your engine. Now today we got a Hyundai Sonata, getting a little bit older. He bought it used for $10,000 about 90,000 miles ago. Now it has 166,000 miles on it. I would never advise anybody to buy it at that mileage, but he's put like 90,000 miles on it. He paid 10 grand, so he can't really complain. Now the engine is starting to make a rattle on a cold start, which is often the death knell of these engines. It means they're starting to go out, but we're gonna analyze the whole thing and see what you get for what you pay. The original engine and transmission, it is made in Alabama. Now, the advantage of this particular one is right here on the back. It's a V6. A whole bunch of the four-cylinder inline Hyundais made in Alabama blew up. They had to replace thousands of engines, not this V6 engine. It is a better engine. He bought this for 10 grand. He's put 90,000 miles on it, right? Well, the average new car today is about $45,000. So he could buy 4 of these for one new Toyota, one new Honda. Now, they are better made cars, but pretty much trouble-free 90,000 miles. The engine is starting to click, it's starting to wear. But you don't want to buy one of these with 150, 160,000 miles unless it's, you know, get it for 500 bucks. It's a knock-around car, you're not driving it much. Because if this engine finally does wear out, that V6 engine costs a fortune, well over what the value of the car is by that point in time, and then you would just get rid of the car. If you can find ones that have less than 100,000 miles on it, like he did, for a low enough price, they can be okay cars. Not bad looking cars, and I gotta say, the interior is held up pretty good. It was a pretty luxurious car, leather seats. Check out the trunk. Got to pull on that pretty hard, but starts kind of wearing out. Nice deep trunk, a lot of space. Closes a lot easier than it opens. Start her up. Starts right up, making any odd noises now because it's warmed up. And that strut still holds it up. That's pretty much the normal sound. You get a little bit of clanking, but he gets a little clanking when he starts it up ice cold. He's going to try some of Bernie's oil cleaner, change the oil. Might help a little, but I kind of doubt it because these engines, you get over 150,000 miles, they generally start wearing out. But I have customers with these. I got a lot of customers with old Toyotas, old Hondas. Do the same thing. You start them up, you get a little clanging noise, but it goes away. And if it doesn't get worse and it doesn't start once the engine's warmed up, sometimes you can go years that way. It's because the variable valve timing system is very complex. And it's not until they get warmed up in oil to the VVT system, they'll often make little noises here and there, but they'll still run perfectly fine. And then they quiet down within 20, 30 seconds of starting the car. So, the money it costs to rebuild one of these V6 engines, forget about it. You're not going to do that. This one still runs perfectly fine. We're going to scan it and see what overall shape the engine is. That'll give us a better idea. We can see if the cams are worn. We can get all kinds of information. Oh, here we go. We'll turn around. The interior's held up quite well. And I do have to say, they build them better than they used to. When they originally built them, I had customers in Houston that bought them. And I said, why'd you buy that? Well, because instead of getting a Camry, I got a bigger engine, a V6, leather seats. And then 3 years later, I wish I would have bought a Camry. They said they're falling apart, right? Well, they are better than they used to, but they're still not perfect. But they are better than they used to be. Area, USA. Knows it's Hyundai Sonata 2006, 3.3 double overhead cam, V6 engine. You can do a fault scan of the topology. Here we go. Gonna analyze everything. Green so far. And remember, this thing has 166,026 miles on it. And here we go. It's got 4 codes. The good stuff, transmission, engine's fine. So it's got ABS stuff. Well, we'll see what anti-lock brakes. Half these things never work right anyways. We'll see what the codes are. Battery voltage low, lost communication with eSIM, okay? They had something replaced, like the battery could have been replaced. We'll check the battery when we're done, just to make sure the battery's not weak. Not a hard code because it went green. And it's also got airbag code. See what that is. Trouble codes for the airbags. We'll erase that. Look at some live data. We'll start her up and we'll take a look at the engine. Live data. And there's all the live data. We'll start checking through everything. Well, the voltage is good. It's charged. And we're going to check the battery. I'll remember to do that. Mass airflow sensor's good. Throttle position's normal. Ignition time is normal. Injector volumes are normal. Oxygen sensor data's normal. Look at this. Long-term fuel trim, 0. That means with 166,000 miles, it's still running perfectly. It doesn't have to add or subtract fuel. So, hey, like I said, they're building better than they used to, especially with this V6. The 4-cylinder engines, they all blew up. So, you don't want that. But the 6s, it's another story. Got the camshaft added. The camshafts are actually very good with only a tiny amount of wear. There's no adaptation for knock, meaning none of the cylinders are knocking. Misfires, there's no misfires whatsoever. Well, it's got a Duralast battery, so let's check it out. Take the stupid cover off, get it on nice and tight. 700. And, okay, good battery. State of charge is 100%, but state of health is 63%. So, as you can see, 9 and 19. So as of next month, it'll be a 4-year-old battery. That's usually all they last. Just starting a car. It's got 63% of its health. But once I get to 50 or below, it's a good idea to get another battery. It starts okay, but it tripped those codes because it's getting a little bit lower. And even though it's an older car, hey, still got a nice smooth ride. Transmission shifting smooth. Everything sounds totally normal. Brakes don't act up. And it does have a V6 engine, so it's quite a bit zippier than the 4s. And there's nobody coming either way, so here we go. We get to our little drag strip here. It's got nice acceleration up the hill. Strange enough, the leather seats creak a little. Most leather seats do, but here we go. Now we'll see how it accelerates. And we're off. Hey, it started to burn. Hey, this thing goes, man. Still shifts smooth. I gotta say, they're tons better with these V6 engines. And like I said, they don't have the engine problems where their machine was wrong and they were metal shearing through the engines. The 6s don't have that problem. And of course, when you want to take off, the speedometer moves a lot quicker. 10 grand he put on 90,000 miles, it still runs like a clock. Yes, the engine makes a little clacking noise. It didn't make it for me, it only makes it ice cold. So, it's a little bit worn. I've seen Toyotas, I've seen Hondas do the same thing. 2, 3, 4 years later, they're still making a little noise in the morning, but they run fine. This had a fuel trim of 0, meaning it's running perfect. Not a bad car for running around. It's their knock around work car. Who knows how long it'll last? Hey, you could have bought 4 of these instead of one new car. Maybe you should have bought 4 of them back then and stored the other ones to wait when this one breaks. I don't know. And here's some bonus questions and answers. Haji says, how do you tell the difference between cheap Chinese junk and well-made Chinese junk? That is a very good question. You really have to understand what you're buying in the business, right? For example, I have, in the last 3 decades, bought nothing but Chinese jacks for lifting cars up, right? Floor jacks. They're excellent jacks. They make good steel products. The Chinese by and far make excellent steel products. Their electronics, leave much to be desired. So, let's say I was working on a car and it needed a mass airflow sensor. I would not buy one made in China. I would want an original equipment made whatever country it was made. If it was the United States, I'd want an American one. If it was a Japanese car, I'd want one made in Japan. If it was a German car, I would want one made in Germany. Really high-tech stuff? No, I would not buy Chinese parts. I just wouldn't buy Chinese parts. And of course, the real proof of the pudding is, if you're looking at a part of auto parts store, tell them you want the box to look at it, right? And if you see misspellings on the box, don't buy it. I saw once that said AC Delco, and that's D-E-L-C-O. But this said AC Delco, D-E-L-C-O. They had spelled it wrong. And it did say made in China on the box. Then I knew it's counterfeit and I didn't buy it. Cameron Eldridge said, Scotty, my brother has an '07 Ford Explorer that the AC blows cold on the passenger side, but warm on the driver's side. Any thoughts? Pray it's the simplest thing on earth. You're low on refrigerant. If you're low on refrigerant, it starts blowing on the passenger side first. So the cold air goes through the evaporator in the dash, blows on the passenger side. But by the time it makes it to the driver's side, you've already hogged most of the cold, and it doesn't blow cold anymore. And you might just need refrigerant. Now, if it's not that, that means your actuators have gone bad, and it's not turning the actuator for AC on the driver's side. And when you find out what it costs to tear apart a Ford Explorer to replace an actuator, sometimes guys charge more than $1,000 labor. You got to tear the whole dash apart. But you might just be low on refrigerant. Have that checked. Simple thing to add it in, and then if it does, you'll know, okay, it leaked out. And then every time it does that, add a little bit more and hope the leak doesn't get much bigger. They all leak a little. So let's say you got to add a can or two every 2 or 3 years. What the heck? Cans are cheap. And all that $1,000 labor, you'll be saving it by just buying a can and learning how to do it yourself watching my videos. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.